Okay guys, I'm going to do a quick video on just text and fonts real quick in Design Space. I find the biggest issue I'm finding with some beginners is that they don't realize that script fonts are meant to be what they call kerned, which is where the letters are moved together so that it actually looks like it was handwritten, so that your letters do kind of overlap a little bit. When you do that, you let me show you here. You would put in, just going to do a little quick thing here to show you. So I'm going to put this in a script font. You can change your font up here in the upper left where it says font in the drop down. You can filter it by what type of font it is. So since I'm doing, I'm working on a car decal project right now, I'm going to do a single layer cutting font because it's going to be just one single layer and it's going to be all the same color. I'm going to click filter and change it to single. Oh, it's already on single layer cutting. Okay, now just be aware that when you do look at the Cricut offered fonts, some of them you have to pay extra for. So like if it says $4.99 here, that means it's one that they're charging you to use. So I hardly ever do that. But you can look at all fonts in this view. You can also look at ones that are just on your computer. These would be the fonts that came with Windows or ones that you've downloaded, like a TrueType font that you've installed on your computer, or just the Cricut based fonts. I usually have all selected here. Single layer cutting. Now some of the writing fonts you'll see where it says writing are real thin, like this one here. I wouldn't use this for a decal because the letters are real tiny. It could peel off real easily. You could lose your letters while you're reading. It's just not fun to weed really tiny things, and sometimes your Cricut will even pick them up as it's cutting. It's just not fun. The only exception I would say in using a thin font for cutting vinyl would be if you're doing a really large project and the font's going to be really big. It's not as big of an issue at that point, but if you're doing just a small, say I'm doing a car decal right now, I'm not going to use something that's real thin. All these writing fonts are basically ones that you would use when making a card where you're using your markers to draw on your project with your Cricut. So what I'm going to do is look for one that's a little more bold for something like a car decal. So like this would be a good one. Okay. And I also wanted to show you a script font. Okay. I have one in mind that I used for a project, so here we go. Okay, a couple different things you can do with fonts. Now, you can change your spacing, so how close or how far apart your letters are. So if you go down, it's obviously going to squish your letters together, or you can space them farther apart depending on what you like as far as the look goes for your project. This comes into play a lot when you're doing these script fonts. Now you're going to want to change your letter space so that the letters are almost touching. Sometimes that can be even less than 0. The easiest way I find to do this is manually moving these letters so that they're touching and it looks like a nicely handwritten script font, that everything is connected. So what you're going to do that, you have your text highlighted here. You're going to click ungroup up here in the upper right. That's going to actually put all of your letters as a separate object that can be moved. Okay, so what you can do is click on the letter you want to move, and you can use your arrows on your keyboard to move it, or you can use your mouse and drag it and drop it so that they're touching. See, now that looks like somebody wrote that by hand. There's not these breaks in between each letter like the computer did it. So it just looks nicer. A lot of times new beginners do this with their projects and they just don't realize that it's supposed to be done, so it looks a little silly once they have their finished project done. But this is it's real simple to do. It's just a little time consuming. So you're basically just moving all your font, all your letters together, and then once I have them all together, bear with me here. Okay, now I put this one a little too close together because I wanted to show you something. Actually, let's see if it'll work. Let's move this a little further. Yeah. Okay. So if you have the letters too close, when you go to weld, now welding again is when you have it connect all of the letters into one cut piece so that there's not overlapping cuts in your letters. So once you have everything where you think you want it, you highlight all of the letters together and then click weld. Now you can see here, oh, it actually did it here. So you can see how it like filled in where this open space was. That'll happen when your letters are too close together. So what you can do, now I mentioned this in the first video, when you weld something, you can't unweld it steps later. You have to immediately undo it and fix it right then and there. You can't go back to it to unweld it later. That's the only thing with Cricut, with Design Space that I find a little frustrating. So hit undo, and then you just want to move your letter a little bit more further apart, and then usually that'll take care of it. I just want to move these a little bit further. Okay. Again, highlight all of it and then click weld. There we go. See, and then that'll be open now because it's the appropriate distance apart, but this will be one piece again. Okay, and it'll also cut in one piece. Now that I showed you the script font thing, I wanted to show you a little bit more features with Design Space of what you can do for designing. With this, you can change your justification. So let me just add a line here. So right now it's left justified. I can center it if I have multiple lines of font. You can just click up here where it says alignment. You can center it, or you can right justify it. Most people prefer centered stuff, but and then you can also, you can also change your line space, which is the distance between the two lines of font. So you can spread it out more by going up, or you can move the lines closer together by going down. You can also, if you have a single layer, a single line of font, which let me go back and delete the second line. You can curve your text. Now this only works on PC or Mac. It does not work in the Cricut app. If you're using like an iPhone or an iPad or tablet, it's only on the PC, unfortunately. So you're going to click curve. Now if you move it to the right, it's going to curve downward. If you move it to the left, it's going to curve upward. I was working on a project earlier for someone. It was a decal for their car. It was actually really cute. I'll show you here. So I basically did a circle image in the middle, and then I did the text above and below curving around it. So let's show you here. I think I had the image pulled up. Yep, here it is. So again, when I want to add an image, if it's a Cricut image, I can click here where it says images and then do a search for it. I already had the code for this one, so it's already pulled up here. And then I'm going to click insert images. It'll show up down here that it's going to be the one they're transferring over. Okay, and then you can make it bigger, smaller, however big you want it. And then you can curve your text more or less to fit around that circle. Let me show you. Now, if you go back and delete your text, it's still going to maintain that same shape that you had it. It's going to maintain the same font, the same size. Nothing will change unless you completely delete that text box and start with a new one. Okay, so I did that, and then I did. Now this is going to come up in that script font because I had that pulled up earlier to show you, so I'm going to change that to the same one I did for this one, which is Anywhere. Okay. Now this, you can click back and forth to see what you have if you want to keep it the same. This is font size 72 Anywhere font size 72 anywhere. You can also change if you want it bold or italicized for most fonts. Some fonts you don't have this option, but if you do, it'll show up there. And then I'm going to curve this upwards so that it goes around the circle. Oops, a little too much. And then here you can, pull it to wherever you want. Now, you do have a couple things here that you need to note. This image is a different color than my text, which means it's going to cut everything separately. This person wanted just a plain white decal for their car, all the same color. So what I ended up doing is changing the color of everything. To match. Come on, I would have selected, okay, and then white for that. Okay, so this is how it would cut. Actually, that's not true. It won't cut like this because if you click make it from here, it's going to separate everything and it's going to look goofy. So what you want to do is, I think group will work here. So once you highlight everything, you hit group. Oh, nope, that's not the wrong one. I always do this. Group and attach always get me baffled. So I'm going to highlight everything and click attach. Okay, so now once everything's attached, that just means it's all one piece for cutting. The group is going to be all one piece for designing, but when you go to cut, it's still going to separate everything. So just that's the difference, basically. It does confuse people. It confuses me, and I've done this a bunch. So, so then you're going to click make it from there if that's the way you want it, and then see it'll cut all in one piece. All right. I'm not going to cut this because I already did this earlier, but I just wanted to show you a little bit some of the features that you could do, simple things with the fonts. I will show you real quickly, get rid of this. I'm going to show you a writing font thing that you would do with your markers. Okay, so when you go up here and you pick your writing font, so you're going to filter this to writing. So this is like that thin one that's gonna, see, this would be perfect for like card. You could use your markers to write this out on a piece of cardstock to make a card for someone. The thing is, if you add this to your project, it may automatically default appear to a drawing font. If it doesn't, if it says cut, if it's really thin and it's not something it thinks the Cricut will cut, it'll change it to print and cut. But you can change it to just cut if you want to attempt it. In my opinion, this is way too thin. You're never going to cut this out of vinyl. And look, it even filled in your O's because it's so thin. It wouldn't be able to do it. It might work if it was a little bigger, but again, this is not something that I would recommend cutting. So you're going to, up here where it says line type, if it didn't already change it to draw, you're going to click draw. Any drawn fonts will be hollow if they are thicker. So for example, if I added oops, why can I not, there we go. So if I added, we're doing one that's like a big font that's thicker. Now here, this one actually comes in a writing style as well, but if I were doing it in a regular font, if I click draw here, it's going to end up making the letters hollow because it'll only draw the outline of the letters if you're using your markers with this kind of font. Some people like that look. You can use it for cards. Personally, I don't prefer that, but you can change it up here to whatever you want. So you can do a cut, a draw. A score is basically if you're doing like a fold line, if you're making an envelope or something like that and you want to score it so that you can fold it easier. I have not worked with any of the foil things yet, but that is an option too in here. Maybe I'll get to that later down the road when I start playing around with it. But so again, drawing fonts, writing fonts rather, when you draw them, when you click that line type and draw, it'll make these bigger letters hollow. But these writing fonts that are really thin, it'll write it just as it's shown there. You can change things here as far as if you want it italicized or whatnot. Again, make sure when you do that, though, it doesn't change your line type, because it might do that. See, if it italicizes it, it makes it hollow to write it because it's a little thicker. So basically the writing fonts rather should just be left as writing. Okay, so you'd want it to be draw writing. And then it's a matter of installing your marker into your A clamp in your Cricut, which there should have been, I believe when I first unboxed my Cricut, there was like a demo on how to clamp and unclamp things from the actual cutting housing. So if you have questions with that, let me know, but it's pretty easy. You just open the little lever, you put the marker in to the A clamp. The adapter should already be in there. Just make sure you push down so that the little arrow on your marker is hidden behind that adapter, and it's snapped in, and then make sure that clamp is closed. It'll tell you in that next stage. Let's see here. So it'll show you when you get to the final stage when you're ready to do the project. Just bear with me here. So here, it'll tell you to load, and it even has the color marker you had on your project, on your canvas. So this one had just the black marker. It tells you to load that here so you don't forget. It's not cutting anything, so it's telling you no tools required in Clamp B. So when I go back here, yes, I'm not cutting. Cancel. Okay. All right, so I think I covered pretty much all the basics with the fonts and text. If you have questions, you can let me know in the comments, or you can message me. You can also do, when you have multiple different text things, I should have did this earlier. So when you have multiple different, text things here, say I wanted to have 2 lines of text that are centered. If you highlight everything and then go up here and click a line, it'll have different options because it's multiple text boxes. So you can center everything so that it's perfect like that. You can also, if you have more than 2 lines of font, so like this, if you want it evenly distributed so that the 3 lines of font are perfectly spaced, like say you have 3 different types of fonts and you want them all differently spaced, you can go up here and distribute them, and that'll just basically make them all perfectly evenly separated. Okay, I think I covered it all. If you have questions, let me know. I'm gonna try my best to cover everything, but it's a lot, and I know I'm sure I'm gonna miss things. So just let me know. I think my next video, which I'll work on tomorrow, will be how to upload images, your own images, into Design Space, or purchasing SVGs and using those images. So I'm going to upload these now, and again, if you have questions, just message me, or you can type it in the comments. I'll try my best to get back to everybody, and then I'll post more videos over this weekend. Thank you.